Hi, I'm Jason England. Welcome to the one-on-one covering the double lift. The double lift, as you know, is one of the most frequently used moves in all of Magic. Unfortunately, it is frequently done poorly. It is my hope that this one-on-one will help to rectify that to some degree. Come on inside. There's 4 different double lifts covered, and I'm sure you'll find one that suits your needs. Thanks a lot, and let's get to it. Hi, welcome to the double lift. Before we get into the actual mechanics of the 4 double lifts that we're going to be talking about today, I want to give you a little background on the move, as I usually do, a little bit of history of the double lift, if you will. The double lift is several hundred years old. It dates back at least into the 1700s and probably much older than that, truth be told. But the modern era of the double lift in print, at least as far as I'm concerned, really doesn't get going until the late 1800s and early 1900s. In the late 1800s, you had books like New Era Card Tricks by Roderberg. You had Stanion Serial Lessons in Conjuring, came about in about 1902. Moving forward a little bit, you've got The Art of Magic in 1909, described a double lift. In the 1930s, you had Hugard and his card manipulation series, and then you had Cliff Green's Professional Card Magic and Expert Card Technique and books along those lines, which all had descriptions of double lifts in them. Most of the double lifts that we're going to be covering today are even more modern than that, but all of those sources are great places to turn to look for ideas on the double lift and ways to manage it. I'm going to primarily be talking about double lifts invented in the latter half of the 1900s. I hope you enjoy them, and with that in mind, let's get started on the first technique. Okay, before we get into this first technique, I just wanted to briefly take a moment to remind you of the versatility of a double lift. And I realize you're already watching the video, so you're already convinced to some degree about the versatility. But the important thing to keep in mind is that the double lift is essentially the concept of a shell. And the top card poses as or stands in for the bottom card, the same way a shell coin stands in for a real coin briefly, the same way a thumb tip stands in for or poses as your real thumb briefly. And with the shell principle, you can do miracles, and with a double lift, you can do miracles. With that in mind, we're going to jump right into the first technique. It's the very first double lift technique I ever learned. I learned it from Brother John Hammond's big yellow book, The Secrets of Brother John Hammond, but it's also very similar to the hit-style double lift that Dr. Daly published in Stars of Magic as his instantaneous double lift. So, the very first technique, right out of The Secrets of Brother John Hammond, and again, it shares some similarities with the double lift from Stars of Magic, and it looks something like this. The cards are held in a dealing position in your left hand, and you're going to reach over to the side of the deck, the right long side of the deck. You're going to pick up 2 cards with your right forefinger. Now, typically the way this is done is your forefinger engages the top card and lifts slightly, and then presses in a little bit more to engage the second card down and lifts up. Now that once you've got 2 cards, you grasp with your thumb and your forefinger and second finger on top, slide the double to the right, and turn it over just like you were opening the pages of a book. You turn it over just like so. You can close the double or turn the double back face down with the same technique, lifting up 2 cards, grabbing, sliding, and turning both cards over on top of the deck, just like so. This particular style that I'm showing you with the lifting up, grabbing, and turning over is very close to the Dr. Daly style. The Brother John Hammond style is slightly different and involves pushing off 2 cards in very close register like so, and then grabbing them and dragging them and turning them over at the same time. In my head, these are subtle differences, and it doesn't really matter which one you use. I've used both depending on the quality of the cards and the amount of fineness that I require for the given technique, but that's the basic idea right there. We'll take a closer look at the lift up portion right now. So to perform the get ready for the Dr. Daly style instantaneous double lift or hit double lift, you approach at the right side of the cards with the forefinger. Your forefinger engages the top card and lifts up, and then engages the next card down and lifts up as well. Now this is slightly exaggerated, but you get the basic idea. Now with two cards lifted up, your forefinger can get underneath. Then your second finger can grab underneath as well. The thumb is placed on top, and you hold with a firm but gentle pressure. You drag the two cards to the right, and you let them fall together as one onto the deck. And your left hand helps to kind of catch and cradle the deck and square anything up in case they got slightly out of register in that process. And then to get them back, we go in, we lift up two cards again, and we turn two cards down. I'll show you that one more time. These are our two cards right up on top of the deck here. Notice I'm not holding a break. This is why it's called the instantaneous double lift. Pick up one, pick up two, get both fingers underneath, drag, and turn over. Pick up one, pick up two, drag, and turn over. And that's the Dr. Daly instantaneous double lift. It's also very similar to the Brother John Hammond double lift. Here's a quick tip for turning the double back face down after you've already turned it face up. It works with a variety of different techniques, but I'll show it to you in the context of this Dr. Daly style double lift. Looks something like this. When you're turning the card face up the first time, instead of allowing the card to fall flush with the deck like I just have, which requires that you now dig underneath two cards again to turn the double face down, instead of doing that, instead, as the double falls over, you're going to out-jog it. In other words, you're going to push it forward like so. You're going to push both cards forward. Watch very carefully. As we turn the card over, I out-jog the double by a little more than half an inch. And now as my forefinger pulls down on the King of Diamonds and the Ace of Spades underneath, it raises the inward right corner. The right inner corner raises up because of that pressure, and then I square the card backwards, and my fourth finger or my third finger can catch a break underneath that card. Now whenever I want to turn the double back face down, I can start with my forefinger at the rear index like this, slide it up, grab a hold and turn it over if I want, or I can just come right here to the side of the card, grab the double and flop it face down before I do whatever I want to do with the Ace of Spades. So that's just a quick tip on how to turn over a double card after it's already been shown to the audience. Here's one more little tip for turning a double card back face down after it's already been turned over. This is especially useful if you accidentally lose a break under the card. We'll take a look at it right now. So for this to work, the cards have to have a slight concave bend to them. As you can see, looking at this deck of cards, I've been bending the long ends downward slightly, and this is going to come in very useful when you do the double lift. So regardless of what kind of double lift you do, I'll just go ahead and get a break and do sort of a Daly style or Hammond style turnover. But notice I've forgotten to get my little finger up underneath the card, and I can't quite get my finger under there. So this is the cool little technique that you can use. Because of the bowing of the deck of cards, you'll notice that if I were to press down with my thumb at this upper corner, the double raises up at the inner right corner, right where my pinky would be. So if I need to catch a break under that double card, simply press here squeeze inward, and you can catch a break under that double. This is especially useful if you accidentally drop the break, or if when you're doing the double turnover and you try to pull downward and catch a break like this, you somehow miss it. You can go back and get it simply by pressing down and squeezing the cards like so to catch that break. So just another quick little tip for how to get a break under the double card whenever you're doing a double lift. I hope you don't have to use that too often unless you want to, but it's a nice little technique to know. So the next technique we're going to cover is actually not a double lift I use very often, but it's a double lift that I love for aesthetic reasons, and it's one that I've practiced for years. I use it occasionally just to be different, but the truth is it doesn't really fit my current style of performing. But I love the move. If it fits your style, if you have a very nice, formal, pretty style of performing, I think you'll really get a kick out of this technique, and you'll be able to put it in the proper places. It comes from the hands of Dai Vernon, the professor. I first ran across the technique in his ambitious card section of Stars of Magic, which you can see right here. Most of you probably have this book at home. If not, you should go get a good copy of Stars of Magic, because the whole book is absolutely excellent. The same basic technique also appears in The Magic of Francis Carlyle, which is a tougher book to find if you don't already have it on your shelf, but it's a great book. Carlyle was a terrific sleight of hand guy, and so they're both there in case you want to learn the technique. And let's get into it right now. Before we can talk about the Vernon double lift from Stars of Magic, we need to talk about the idea of getting a break under two cards, because unlike the instantaneous or hit double lift that you just saw, this double lift and the double lifts to follow depend on you having a break under the top two cards before you get going. I'll show you a couple of different ways of doing that. You'll have to decide which one works best for you and the context you're using the move in, all on your own. But here we go with a couple of different ways of getting a break. So the first way is probably the least elegant way, but it certainly works, and that is to approach the deck with your right hand, hold the deck in the left hand in a normal mechanic's grip or dealing position. Approach the deck with the right hand, and you're actually going to lift up on the top two cards with your thumb at the rear of the deck, squeeze in with the pinky to get a fourth finger break, and now you've got your break under the two cards. I'll show you that one more time. It's a fairly simple operation. Lift up. You've got two cards held with the left fourth finger. Now then, a lot of people like to say instead of lifting up with the thumb, that instead you should move the hand downward to keep the top card a little bit flatter. If you prefer that way, I would not discourage you from experimenting with it. The truth is, I've found that neither one of them are terribly elegant. The fact that you have to reach over and get a break like that is just one of those facts of life that you kind of have to live with whenever you're doing a double lift. So there's the top card, the Ace of Diamonds. As I reach up and get a break under two cards, now I can go into whatever double lift I want. That's the first way of getting a break, a simple lift at the rear of the deck. Another way of getting a break that's not terribly elegant, but it works in a lot of situations depending on what you're doing, is to simply push over two cards, push upwards on the bottom of the second card with your fingers, and then pull those cards back and maintain a break that way. Again, pretty straightforward, not very elegant, but if you can do this in a way that makes sense or a way that's natural, then there's no problems getting a break by pushing over a couple of cards and then pulling back. This could be especially useful in a situation where you've got to push over several cards and then get a break under these cards as you maybe table this half or what have you. A lot of different things you can do there. But again, push over two, square them back up, and catch that finger break under the two top cards. There are other things that you can do. If, for instance, you could push over one card and then maybe pretend to see a little piece of lint on the table and brush that lint off the table, or pretend to pick it up and move it. And as I did that, I actually pushed over the next card along with it. So just a tiny bit, got a break. As I pretend to dust something off, I pull the top card square again, and now I've got my break. That's a little bit more elegant, a little bit sneakier, if you will, but it's an effective technique. It's something that you could do depending on, again, the context that you're using it for. And the last technique is one I'm not going to go into too much because I think it would take a little bit of detail to really teach this, but it's the idea of a pinky count. I just flex the deck there a little bit, and I've got my break under 3 cards if I want. I can flex the deck and get a break under 2 cards, or of course I can just get a break under a single card. The pinky count can be found in Darwin Ortiz's first big book on card magic called Darwin Ortiz at the Card Table. You can also find it in a couple of other places scattered throughout the literature. It's in Stranko on Cards and a few other things. But the pinky count, if you're familiar with that technique, is a great way to get a break under 2 cards. And it's typically the method that I use most often. So with that in mind, it gives you a couple of different ways that you can get a break under a few cards. We'll get right into the Vernon Double Lift from the Ambitious Card segment of Stars of Magic. And so let's get right into the Vernon technique from the Ambitious Card effect in Stars of Magic. It looks something like this. You're going to start with a break under the top 2 cards. In the text of the book, Vernon recommends riffling up the back of the deck and catching a break under the top 2 cards. Doesn't really matter how you get to this position. You can use any of the techniques that I showed earlier, but you do need to start with a break here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to reach over with your right hand. You're going to pull the top 2 cards, the double, to the right, about half the width of the deck, I would say, so a little bit more than an inch. Then you're going to flex the double card upward and let it turn and fall onto the deck. Vernon in the book shows a way of making that flexing action with one hand. I always use 2 hands, just I thought it looked a little more elegant. The interesting thing about that flexing action is it gives you a gap at the front and the rear of the deck between the double card and the rest of the deck. This allows you, with a gentle touch, to reach over and pick up those 2 cards, jog them to the right again, give them one more flex, and then turn the double face down. Whenever you want to turn the single over, just use the same actions. Something like that. I'll try that again for you. Again, you start with the double under the 2 cards, however you want to start. Move it over, a little flexion, reach over, another flex to take the bend out, and you turn the double face down. And of course, it's now you do whatever you want with it. So one last time here, get your break however you want. The 7 of Hearts is going to be the card that we show. Reach over and turn it face down. Now, I'm doing this exactly the way it's written, basically the way it's written in Stars of Magic. Obviously, if you wanted to do this double in such a way that it lands out jog so that you can square up this way, that's perfectly acceptable as well. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can go here. I've always admired this double lift technique simply because it looks elegant. It's a very pretty technique. The slight flexion of the double card, to my eye, demonstrates singularity without overdoing it too much. And I hope you enjoy the technique. And that's Di Vernon's technique from Stars of Magic. The third technique we're going to talk about is something that's been known in the literature as the Stewart-Gordon double lift. Let me give you a little bit of background on this move. I personally believe that Ken Simmons of Colorado Springs was probably the first person to actually come up with this double lift. I can't prove it, but in talks with Ken Simmons and some other people in the world of card magic, my guess is that Ken was the first, and this should probably be the Ken Simmons double lift. However, the move is known as the Stewart-Gordon double lift. Ken was the first person to put it in print in his Riffling the Pasteboards, which came out in the 80s. It's been put in print in a couple of other places. Guarded Secrets Revealed was another book that Ken published the move in. And both of those were before the first known publication of the move as the Stewart-Gordon double lift. The first publication of that move, as far as I'm aware, was in Larry Jennings' book, The Card Right. It's also been in print in Darwin Ortiz's book, Card Shark. It's also in print in Jennings 67. So the move is out there. I happen to love the move. I use it all the time. It is one of my go-to double lifts for turning two cards over in a manner that's a little more interesting than a simple double turnover and yet isn't too flashy. And let's get right into the Stewart-Gordon or Ken Simmons double lift right now. So here's the technique on the Stewart-Gordon, aka Ken Simmons double lift. I've got a break at the rear of the deck under two cards with my left fourth finger. Again, how you get that break is entirely up to you, and it will probably depend on the context of the trick that you're doing. But here's the double lift technique. With the right hand, I'm going to pick up the double card using my right third finger at this upper corner, my thumb at the inner corner, upper right corner and inner right corner. These two fingers, the second finger and the first finger on the back of the deck, and I pick it up just like so. And now what's going to happen is my right thumb is going to lightly brush across the face of the double card as the two cards are levered face up, like so. Now this actually happens right on top of the deck, so it would look like this. Start from here, we turn it over, and notice it was pinned by my left thumb at the on the top of the two cards and the left forefinger up at the front, helping to keep them in alignment. So that's the turn over move. Now I typically simply turn it over, show it for a second. Notice I gave it a little bit of a bend, a little subtle bend downwards. This is just a way of trying to emphasize singularity. I typically don't do, all of this sort of stuff, snapping and popping the card. I simply give it a little flex, and then I turn the double face down bookwise, like so. So there's the Stewart-Gordon double, and there I've turned it back down. Now, some people may criticize the fact that I turned the double down differently than I turned it up. It's a legitimate criticism, I guess. If that sort of thing is crucial to your handling style, then by all means, go ahead and turn the double back down that way. I found that it typically doesn't matter for me because usually I'm talking or gesturing in some way, and having a slightly different turn down from the way I turn the card up is often not a big problem for me. But anyway, that's the Stewart-Gordon double lift, and now we'll take a look at it in detail. So here's the Stewart-Gordon or Ken Simmons double lift from the performer's angle. Notice I've got a break under the top two cards. Come over with the right hand, lifting at the upper right corner with the third finger, lower corner, maybe right in this area, not exactly on the corner and not in the middle of the card, but just to the right of center with the thumb. And then as the card is pivoted around, the thumb is now right on the center line of the queen, and it brushes right down the middle of that card. Now it's pressing against the edge of the third finger. That's what's helping to keep it in alignment. So I'll show you that one more time. See how it's pressed against that edge of the third finger? These fingers apply pressure on the back, and now the thumb can very lightly brush right down the center of the queen, and she won't split in two if you're careful. So this move requires a little bit of a touch, but it looks something like that. One more time, show the double lift with the Queen of Hearts. There's the queen. A little bit of a flexion on this corner, a little bit of a bend like that, just to emphasize singularity. Turn the card face down, and now you can do whatever you want with the top card. But that's the way the move's supposed to look. It's a very light brushing action as you turn the card over. Now, it helps to have dry skin. If you have incredibly tacky skin, what will probably happen is something like this, and the card splits. You don't want that to happen. So it helps to have a light touch, but it also helps to have dry skin. If you want to practice this and you have tacky skin, sometimes it helps to use the nail to overcome friction. Could have sworn I'd heard that idea somewhere before. Use the nail to overcome friction just as you run your thumbnail right down the center line of the card. A very pretty double lift, but a very functional double lift as well. It's the kind of thing that you can do with more than one card. There was a quadruple lift if you want. So let's see if we can try a couple of them for you here. So that's 3 cards. That's 2 cards. And of course a single can be turned over the same way as well. That's the performer's view of the Stuart Gordon or Ken Simmons double lift. Thank you. Okay, here we go with the last technique on the video. It's called the soft double, and it comes from Roger Klaus's book In Concert. Although the truth is I've been doing it in one form or another for several years before I saw it in that book. I'll give you a little bit of background on it. About over a decade ago, Alan Ackerman showed me a technique from his book, Las Vegas Cardma, called the Spooky Altman Trap. The Spooky Altman Trap is a really cool way of turning over doubles, triples, quadruples, whatever you want. From that, I combined it with some ideas that I had seen in a section of Guy Vernon's First Vernon Chronicles book called 3 Loose Lifts. Took some techniques, and I came up with this method of doing a double lift that had the look of Alan's Spooky Altman Trap, but used a slightly different methodology. Thought I'd invented something really cool, and then of course I find out it's in the Roger Klaus book. When that was published, Roger had been doing it for years. So this is basically Roger's technique right out of his book In Concert. Here we go with the soft double. You start with the deck held in the left hand. I already have a pinky break below the top 2 cards, and here's the soft double. Show you the Ace of Spades, turn it down, and then show you the 9 of Hearts, turn it down. And that was the double lift. And that's Roger Klaus's soft double. And it looks something like this. Watch very carefully. Here's how it's done. You're going to lift upwards with the 3rd finger so that you can sort of dig a little bit of flesh underneath the edge of those 2 cards. Now notice my 3rd finger is positioned at approximately the center line of the card. I flex inward and squeeze the double card against the base of my thumb, and then I sort of relax my hand and open my hand. And when I open my hand, that double card rides out on the tip of the 3rd finger. As you can see right there, 2 cards will ride out and over to the right. I don't let it go this far usually. I just let it go over a little bit like so. These fingers come up and turn over the card and let it land square. And then typically I do one of these techniques where the card is out jogged a little bit. I pull it back using the pull down technique from the forefinger, and then I turn the card face down like so. So that's the Roger Klaus soft double, and now you get to see that from another angle. So here's the soft double from the performer's angle. As you can see, I've got a break under the top 2 cards, and with the third finger of the left hand pushing inwards and with the thumb providing a little counter pressure on the top, we're going to bow the cards convexly like so. A little relaxation and that double rides out on the fingers where it can be turned over by the right hand. I just come right up in between those fingers like so. To turn it back face down, looks something like that. Now, I don't do this, but an interesting element of this technique is that you can actually do a double lift with one hand, using your thumb to lever the card over. Again, I don't do that typically because it's risky and I have had the card separate. The truth is I don't cause the card to move very far at all before I go ahead and take hold of it with my right fingers and cause it to turn down. In fact, most of the time when I do this technique, I actually turn the card over. I have a break. I turn the card over with a daily style and then only turn it back over using the Roger Klaus soft double method. One last time we'll show you the technique. So there's a turnover and there's the turn down. And that, of course, was 2 cards. By the way, the technique works just as well with 3 cards, of course. That was a triple lift. Could probably get away with 4 cards if you want. I typically don't do this, but that was 4 cards turned over. Obviously, you run a slight risk of them separating the more you go, but this is a really interesting and useful technique. It's very soft, hence the name soft double. I think it's a great technique to practice and use. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so we've come to the end of the double lift video. I hope you found something in here that you can use, whether it be the daily hit style lift, or whether it's the Vernon or the Stuart Gordon / Ken Simmons style lift, or whether it was the last thing we just looked at, the soft double from Roger Klaus. Before I let you go, I thought I'd, throw in one more. Our good friend Martin Nash passed away this year, and Martin was always a real gentleman and a good friend to me. So I thought I'd show you the knockout double lift. It's something that Martin and I talked about for many years. We had nice discussions about the move, and I like it a lot. He and I had discussed a video project that kind of fell through with his passing, but that's what tells me that I know I would have had Martin's permission and blessing to teach you his knockout double lift from his first book, Ever So Slightly, written by Stephen Mintz. It's a really terrific book, as was just about everything that Martin ever put out. So with that in mind, let me show you briefly the knockout double lift. Here's how it works. Hold the deck in the left hand. This is a no get ready double lift. What you're going to do is with your left thumb, you're going to come right up here to the near the upper right hand corner. You're going to engage the top card and start to push it over where it pivots on the base of the left thumb. As soon as that top card begins moving to the right, you're going to engage the second card, and you're going to push 2 cards over as once in pretty close alignment. Now, as you can see, those cards aren't perfectly aligned, but they're very close. And this happens as the right hand comes over. And it doesn't matter if you use your second finger or your third finger to help square those cards. And then they continue to pivot and are rotated against the base of the left thumb and snapped face up. One more time. The knockout double lift looks something like that. A variety of different ways to turn the card face down as usual. But this is the basic action of Martin's knockout double lift. Now, to practice this, if you're not comfortable using a really fine push-off like this, one of the things that you can do is you can actually down jog that top card very, very slightly. And then you can push over 2 cards, go ahead and square them up and turn them over. Eventually, after a couple of weeks practice, you'll be able to push over 2 cards fairly smoothly and reach in there and turn them over without any problems. And then you can turn them back down however you like. You can turn them back down like this if you want, turn them back down book style, variety of different turn down methods that you can employ there. So once again, that is Martin Nash's knockout double lift. I want to thank Martin for teaching me the technique all those years ago. I hope you found something you like on the video, and we'll see you next time.